Okay, starting off the Instagram live here. I'm gonna get Daniel of Hendrix on with us, and also Lele will be joining. Hi, welcome. Let me get Daniel on here. Everybody, just getting everybody into the live session here. Got stormy weather in the background. Comment in if you've heard any crazy storm stories while we wait for people to join in here. Hey, Daniel. Looks like you got a foggy.
This is how dysfunctional on my phone really is.
Okay.
It really just looks like this.
All right. Well, we can go ahead and get started. I believe I've invited you and Lele up to the stage here. And so, just as an introduction, Daniel is the CEO and, correct me if I'm wrong, co-founder of Hendrx Farms, which is the nursery in Humboldt County here. And Daniel, I've met you a couple times. I've seen your awesome facility here in McKinleyville, and I don't think I know your backstory yet. What brought you to the plant?
Backstory. I was born in my backyard in Humboldt County to two Humboldt State undergraduate students. And the rest is pretty much just like right there to be had. I was freshman in high school when the Compassionate Care Act passed, and it seemed pretty obvious and awesome to want to be part of something that was just trending towards legalization. And Ganja, I just caught the full wave. It just seemed obvious, something I always wanted to do.
Nice. And so how did you get into breeding cannabis, and why did you end up starting the nursery?
Well, the breeding's the most like interesting part, right? It's like there's all these different expressions of the plant, and that's like when just cannabis becomes its most interesting. It like interacts with how you feel and gets you high and alters your state of mind. And it's like beautiful and looks a certain way. It like can smell like apple pie, or it can smell like a skunk, or it can smell like, and so it's just such a like beautiful plant. So at the time, you see these trends, and still, I mean, now it's no different. Like people just kind of trend towards one expression of the plant. Purple gas is like really expensive, like, what everybody focuses on, and you see it replicated, and you kind of see high potency, high THC, same expression over and over again. So breeding like gives you the excuse to push back against that and kind of create something. And you just see people do such cool things in that space too. Rare cannabinoids, they like fight cancer, and they fight autism, and all these like, it's crazy. Parents, the craziest people have interacted with me in my life because of the plant, like from healing, to, Jamaican musicians. It's like everybody interacts with the plant, and it's what everybody else wants from it, and it really needs to be diverse. And so breeding like helps me kind of channel that outlet and push back against the trends.
What are some cultivars that come to mind when you think of those super unique qualities that you just mentioned?
Ringo's Gift, Pink Boost Goddess, Blueberry Muffin, Chocolate Hashberry. Even in the stuff that's like brand new and really exciting, you could say like, Rainbow Belts 3.0 is really exciting, and it's like all the commercial qualities. Gelinade was really exciting at one time. It depends on what you get excited about. Freak Show can be really exciting. I'm most excited about like when I say, out of all those like Pink Boost Goddess and what Emerald Spirit Botanicals does with their breeding, because unique and minor cannabinoids are just, we're still discovering these like minor cannabinoids that we just are learning how to delineate, from other cannabinoids. So it's the rare stuff and the stuff that goes against the trends that are really, important for preservation and for all the different reasons that cannabis can reach its like fullest potential, are still hidden, in those rare, conceptualizations like that. So yeah, I think like Pink Boost Goddess is like the highlight of all of those.
What is it about it that stands out for you?
It's the THCV, it's a unique cannabinoid and it really accelerates at it. It wins a lot of awards and gains a lot of attention on the merit of its quality, just like in conventional bag appeal, and just like and then it just delivers a unique cannabinoid that isn't present in anything else.
Definitely.
So I really love things that like push back against trends like that. There's some farmers that can do a better job expressing, the most of it. Like Mocha Humble is one that like grew Pink Boost Goddess this year and trialed it. It's still a brand new cultivar. So like getting access to these rare cannabinoids are still in its infancy too. So it's kind of a fun like unicorn to chase after.
Cool. I've been trying this whole time to get Lele on stage so that she can ask the questions, and I've been having some technical difficulties there. But Lele, if you can hear me, if you can log out and then back in, that would help. And Daniel, so you've been putting some of your cultivars on Canopy, right? And you're on our advisory board and you understand a lot about the platform. What is it about Canopy, right, that you think is special and different, and how
I
do you?
mean, it's so important to declare yourself a breeder. Declaration is like such an important component of being a breeder. It's like it takes a lot of courage to say what you've created is valuable, and to recognize like the time that you put into your, breeding project. And so just taking the step to saying that like I'm a breeder and I have created this X, Y, or Z, whatever it is just the most critical point in taking ownership over what you're doing and having a goal. So at that point, you've taken the steps to create something. You have to acknowledge it, and Canopy Right is the only trustworthy entity that I can think of that allows you to do that. And what's unique is it allows you to do it without cost. So there's been a lot of groups. I've been involved in a lot of groups talking about cannabis IP over the years. I've been in different organizations and people that sit around and conceptualize blockchain and DNA and how breeding rights can be incorporated into some kind of, community-based, access. People give this a lot of thought, and I've seen a lot of people's attempts that just didn't have the right trajectory in terms of like the hybrid understanding of technology and plant bioethics. It's a pretty like touchy space, right? You have to be able to trust the entity. And like for me, the relationship with Jeffrey, getting to meet him in person, and his mind and his wanting to create something that acknowledges and solves a problem for small cannabis farms and breeders is unique. And it's mostly his ethics that like help drive that like concept forward. So
Yeah, definitely. And people not having to send their material anywhere in order to get that kind of time stamped. Like you said, declaration, that's a really great word to describe what it is. And also,
and you put your value on it. You place your value on a market. for anybody who's like listening and doesn't understand what we're talking about, it's like canopy right like allows you to put your genetics, metric genetics, your non-metric genetics. It allows you to declare what you have as like a breeder, and then you take a sample and you get to like using irony, use like the like legal system's way of tagging a sample. So if they like have evidence for an evidence bag, they use the evidence bag and they like seal it, and you take a picture of it and they upload that picture. Like we upload it, their canopy right uploads it into the blockchain. So it's like, you know that by putting it into a sample bag, your sample exists and it timestamps your DNA. So it's like a pretty much a free solution as long as you have a freezer that you can access. So
And
it's pretty simple, and it like solves a problem that is out there, is that there's predatorial companies that will, are making the most of it right now. Right now, a lot of people are getting squeezed out of the cannabis industry, and there's a lot of pressure being put on cannabis. So the cost of growing on a commercial scale becomes unaffordable to small farmers when scale happens. And so like we see in all other agricultures, that's happening right now. So the preservation and the, declaration of like being a breeder means that there's going to be a lot of really important plants that get squeezed out of existence right now. So we need to like preserve, we need to declare ourselves as breeders, we need to put more effort into breeding as a community, because we're going to lose a really important component. So canopy right helps encourage and like declare your rights, and a value to your breeding. So I think it's a really important video component.
definitely. And also the contract component. I think a lot of people right now, or a lot of breeders right now are kind of racking up huge lawyer bills trying to get someone like Jeff to write their contract. And this is a robot version of Jeff, I like to refer to it as. Um, he doesn't like to refer to it as that as much, but you don't have to pay as much to get your cultivar contracts written and sorted out between you and the cultivator. It's all negotiable on the app.
Yeah, cannabis IP really matters, and does have value. So it's like those contracts do exist in all other all other kind of agricultural crops, and they exist within cannabis. So if you breed something novel, there is an immense amount of value in that. And farms that want to make the most of that, and companies that want to make the most of that, are smart to partner with breeders and have a mega expensive part of their, business model solved by something that the breeder has done in their work. So by creating something unique, you're doing a very expensive function, performing a very expensive function. Breeding takes a lot of years, and like time is money. And that like in the real world of cannabis production, your breeding rights equate to real dollars. And these kind of structuring of these contracts make it a more common practice. So by declaring your value, you're asserting that breeding does have a value, and canopy right gives like direct access to contracting structures that are familiar, to my business, which primarily focuses on this. So we try to preserve what's endemic and powerful to Humboldt and make that commercially available. So as a small farmer, it's hard to access the scale you want and the vertical supply that you need. And we try to make that happen, and deliver that experience to scale. And, that why Blueberry Muffin comes to mind is like, that was one of the first ones we ever worked on, and watched that accelerate and become kind of a household name. And then we know like Pink Boost Goddess has probably the same trajectory, and we get to see, strains like Gelonade when they're on their path, and see this like trajectory and relationship between the uniqueness of the quality of the flower and the uniqueness of the breeder, and as it becomes like a commodity and like staple of like cannabis production. So it's really cool.
Definitely. And what strains have Canopy Right so far, and
What was that? Say that again.
which bars have you added to Canopy Right so far?
We did only one. That's like because it's like the most fresh. A lot of the stuff already has contracts in place that we've created over the years. But I think we landed the chocolate pineapple, which is a really cool one. We're breeding like all in a very pineapple, purple, high terpene space without like regard for potency in the Highway 36 area. So Little Larrabee Creek, shout out like Goddess Organics, big part of like the pheno hunt process on that genetic. It's a really high production. It's really beautiful. It retained really well after harvest. So, had a lot of qualities. I think we're going to see that one be part of like future breeding projects at that specific location. So we'll be back crossing with like a similar male onto that variety and kind of several different phenotypes, from that space. So yeah, I see a question here from somebody that asked like, do the pheno hunters, do you count pheno hunters as valuable? Absolutely. Like selection is a critical component. And like, if you look at like the plant patent website, the US like plant patent website, they talk about plant breeding and they talk about how the facility that is involved in the phenotype development is like a critical part, and like they have like a co-applicant process. It's like the very first paragraph of describing like plant patents is like how the relationship between the pheno hunt, phenotype discovery is like what we always like call that stage at Hendrix. Like phenotype discovery is intensive and takes years. So yeah, super valuable.
And um, how do you think like are going to play in over the next few years as the industry?
How do I think what's going to play in over the next few years?
Legacy genetics?
Legacy genetics, honestly, my call is unpopular. I think it's going to be 20 years before legacy genetics matter. And I think of that because I think about heirloom. I think it took 40 years for the word heirloom to kind of take matter and take value in like heirloom tomatoes. And I think because we're in a tech world, will double that time. It's kind of like each time you double the communication technology, like time, the power of technology accelerates that much faster. So we're in a really fast communicating world right now. So I think that 40-year heirloom process means we're 20 years away. I think that like the uniqueness of what's out there right now is immense. I just don't think people have the vision to seek it out yet. I don't think cannabis has been normalized enough, and that we don't, as a whole, as a society, don't really have the skill set to analyze it and seek out a higher quality product yet. And so I think that like as we get more familiar with this crop, globally, that we'll start to like ask for like how is it produced and start to really understand its effects and the hybridization of like the quality of like its natural like what it's exposed to in its natural environment dictates its like cannabinoid rarity and its cannabinoid expressions. So we need to see that. Yeah.
Definitely. What qualities do you think are going to be most popular this year? Predictions for 2023.
Okay, popular. I mean, I'll make some like I don't know exactly what's going to be popular, but like as a whole, purple gas, high THC is what the metrics are forcing people towards right now. They're really telling people at like a bulk buying level, like buy based on these metrics. And so everybody kind of swamps onto these metrics, and commercial companies, the more commercial the company, the more they follow those metrics and then create something that meets those metrics. And then there's an overproduction of it, and then the value becomes something else where everybody else wasn't looking. So last year, like OG Kush was underproduced. as a whole, because people were kind of moving
Nope,
away
I'm
from it, trying to
on.
make things simple. I think that what's going to happen this year is we're going to see a lot of stuff produced for a fresh frozen market, and we're going to see kind of an overproduction of like stuff developed directly for like a extraction based product, because we can get really amazing cannabinoid expressions in a raw fresh frozen form. People are really discovering that and like discovering how valuable that product is, and I think people are going to jump on that trend. And I think that the gap to look for is exactly what everybody's overproducing right now, which is like purple gas. I think it's going to be full circle, and I think people should produce purple gas.
Yeah.
It's going to be cyclical this year. They're going to take other routes of simplicity because people understand the supply chain, and purple gas, jarrable, perfect, beautiful nugs are a little more challenging to produce on a consistent basis. And so I think that people are going to move away from doing that and try to take easy routes and keep their production costs really low. And the people that like tough it out and grow really perfect purple buds are probably going to win. Jar the flower.
Sorry I'm late, everyone.
What's up, Jeffrey? How you doing?
Daniel,
Thanks.
Kelsey.
Thanks for having me.
The wind blew one of my windows out in the
Oh,
middle
rock
of the storm.
star.
So I had to
We're getting the weather in
out how to
California
install
today,
and
huh?
put it
You
back in
exposed
place.
your location.
A storm.
It's nice to know that it's not all perfect in the city, and you're getting a little tossing around there too, Jeff.
Yeah, just a little broken glass.
That's major.
Start my Wednesday.
Sorry
Yeah.
I'm late, you guys. I don't know why. Maybe it's because of the cross accounts, but I got on earlier and I couldn't get on this part. And then I signed out and signed back in and it wouldn't let me through. I couldn't even see you guys. Hey, I want to say hi to, hey, Rare Breed. I see you, Brad. And Johnny was on here earlier. And I want to just first of all say thanks to everybody for showing up. And listen, if any of you have any questions, which I know most of you probably do, we actually have Jeff on right now. Throw your Canopy Right questions out there. Daniel knows a lot of the answers as well as Kelsey and I. And then Daniel, thank you for taking the time out and really being such an intricate part of this. And Kelsey, thank you for keeping it going today.
Yeah.
This is I'm having the best, honestly, like my job description today. I kind of want to like flip the camera around and like shout out to like these companies to see if I know how to do this.
Are you at Chris?
I am at the Chris plant, so we're at a consumption lounge. We get to test products all day long and choose like what's gonna.
Oh, that Zog is good. I've had the Zog. That's good. Oh, we've lost Daniel. Or is that me? Are we losing all of us?
No, I'm heard.
Are we
Well, I worked at Urso for Bear Humboldt before starting.
Brad, I'll have to introduce you to Daniel. He's setting up shop in our hood. Oh, and we lost Daniel. Oh, what a bummer.
I'll make
So we have some questions, but we lost Daniel.
We lost Daniel, so he's got to answer the feminine seed question.
Yes. So I missed most of the conversation, but I had him talking about, I heard you guys talking about purples and what's coming next. And I was just in a really fun conversation, and they were saying they think the funk is going to come back. And I'm not a big fan of the funk, but they were. And so I went and I smoked some really funky weed, and it turns out the funk definitely did something medicinally from me that I haven't been connecting with the plant lately, because I really like the flavors. I like the citrus. I like the beer. I love Johnny's weed. I really like those flavors, but I smoked the funk and it was like someone knocked me out. And I smoke a lot of weed. And I have a feeling that a little bit of that funk, especially if we're talking about those old purples, come back, that we're gonna, hey Brad, what's up?
Damn, that was quick. I barely hit the button and I was already on here in like half a second.
Well, we want you on here for
I
your own
like
time.
to
So Brad,
make
meet
green again
Kelsey
comment.
and Jeff.
Gone.
They are part of the team. Jeff is the
Yeah, I met
founder.
him down at
That's
the
right.
We
Cup.
met. Yeah.
Did you meet Kelsey at the Cup?
No, I don't think so.
I got to meet you. Hey.
But I was just listening to what you guys are saying about what's up and coming, and I think that solventless hash maker strains are probably the most sought after right now, because we started freezing material and doing the math, and even kind of on a lowballed scale, you're probably going to get 2 to 3 to 4 times more revenue coming in than for the flower of the same product. But they don't all do that. But I think as a breeder, I get asked what washes more than anything. And then what's purple, what tests 30%. Like, these are the things that they're asking. Obviously, high THC content, that purple bag appeal. But washers, man, the solventless thing's kind of one of the last remaining values in cannabis other than genetics. I think what Dan and Nat and everybody's doing, holding on to their genetics world, and like me, trying to be more of a genetics provider than a flower provider, because I just found my niche, and where I see a longer future for me in particular with my background and my program, the way I like to operate it. I think being a genetics provider makes me, I can serve a better purpose than trying to compete.
Brad, I would love it. I mean, and if you're not comfortable, you don't. I mean, we are on Instagram, but I would love it if you would tell a few folks that are listening, like, the reality of your background, because we got a lot of people that have been around here for a lot of years, but not a lot of people have the kind of story that you have around the plant and the impact that it's had on this community. Would you feel like sharing some of that?
I'll share some of the basics. I was born and raised in Humboldt County by a father who was a addicted guerrilla grower, and a mother who, my grandmother worked for the DA's office. So my mom's side was basically the war on drugs. My dad's side was guerrilla growing back in the late 70s and early 80s, and I was born in 79. And it goes back, back old camp raids and shit is where I first got my introduction to what this was, broken home and all that because of it. I don't want to go into the details, but in the future, I'm sure they'll come out in some interview or something. But just the whole what Humboldt County's been through as far as the war on drugs, we've been through it. And I've tried to find a niche in cannabis in so many different ways, from managing farms to going in and running people's nurseries to, man, I kind of gave up on a lot of the dead end roads because there's too much competition, and there's too much access from all the, I think when 2016 happened, the access was granted to a lot of people that didn't have it before. So I've been a lifelong cannabis everything. Started out just a stoner in a trailer park. Started out a stoner in a trailer park as a teenager, and just evolved. And I think that I always wanted to stay in it. And about 3 years ago, I just it clicked in my head, just provide genetics, and mainly in seed form because they're easier to hold. I wanted to just run a big fat nursery and hold on to 80 card library, but it's too much facility needed, and I don't have the resources to do that, or I would. But I think in seed form and providing seed genetics, but we're trying to top people into running seeds again. I think a lot of people are got to do what's tried and true. But, they don't really want to do the pheno hunt. They want you to do it. But as far as the background, I've just been working with dozens and dozens of people over the years, and just found that niche for providing genetics, and, been a major stoner my whole life. So when I smoke something in a joint, I know what's good or what's not. Or when I eyeball something, I can see a good characteristic in a plant and see a good structure. And a good taste and try to mix them up. But definitely look up to a lot of these other guys like Hendrix and, you know, Craig at Satori and Nat at Humboldt Seed Company, buddy Matt at ETO. A lot of these guys have done shit on a bigger scale, but yet kept it local. I'm kind of looking at them for like, hey, where do we go? Because I'm trying to get where you're at, but you're wondering if you're even going to want to stay where you're at. So I think as a community, we're looking to see who's still around, who's still willing to fight the long fight. Because I'm a lifer, dude, and I don't even know what else to do. Like, I own a skate shop in Eureka as well, on the Humboldt Skate Lab. But
I want to go back to, you keep bringing up seeds, and we had a really first of all, I want to remind everybody where we're at. We're on Canopy Right's Instagram. My Instagram says apothecary because I'm using my friends because I wasn't able to get through, but I'm Lelehnia DuBois, and we've got Kelsey on here and Jeff Hamilton, Kelsey Parker and Jeff Hamilton. All three of us are a part of Canopy Right, which is a blockchain that's been developed to help protect the cultivars of this community, and a whole bunch of other things. But we were in a conversation on Friday with a scientist. His name is Kevin McKernan, and he was telling us in some recent research that he has done around hops latent viroid. And there's a video, if you go to YouTube on Humboldt Grace, and it's the Humboldt Grace Legacy Project, and it says Kevin McKernan on HPLVD. And he talks about that his research has shown him that the only way we're going to start managing hops latent viroid is through breeding it out through old genetic seed production that still carry these parts of the in the DNA. It was oh gosh, I had it, I forgot it, it's late in the day, something 7, I think a cog 7, and then another one that creates unique properties that make it resistant to this virus. And his research is telling him that the way to fix that is through these genetics that carry these traits. And they're being found in the older genetics and outdoor.
So they're trying to find genetics that carry traits that can counteract that, or they're trying to find genetics that that were bred before hops latent existed. That makes
good question. I don't know the answer to that question, but I'll ask them.
Yeah, you know what I mean. Hops latent obviously came on the scene at some point from some source, and if you can find genetics that were bred and those seeds were stored before that came on the scene, and that's a big part of my program. I've obviously bought all the $200 and $500 and $700 seed packs from every well-known breeder there is, and I spent all my life savings on it. But one of the valuable things I started doing is going into the hills where my heritage is and my family and friends have been for 20, 30, 40 years, and started announcing that I'm into seeds, and they started busting out their dresser drawers like, dude, take it all. Take it, hunt through it, you can have it. This is what we know about it. And I'm more excited to hunt through that thing than any $700 pack I got from, I don't want to downgrade anybody's name, but all the hype, I already got it. And I've heard, you know, so mixing it with the old genetics, like some of these old, even Blue Dream, Chem Dog, some of these crosses that were around, the Blueberry Chem 91's the big one I did. But I'm doing it for the reason of trying to get certain genetics out. I don't want to badmouth any of those genetics either, but kind of pre-2007, 2008, when some of these exotic worlds started coming around, I'm trying to jump track right before that. Like that Blueberry Chem 91 is about as advanced in the Densmore Hills as we were with crosses up until the point where some bigger names come around that we can't get out of genetics now because they're so bred into the library that everything's crossed with it.
Well, as I dive into this conversation, not from a legacy operator's point of view, but trying to learn the science and the business and all those pieces, every step I move forward in the past 7 years has only validated that our generational experiences are incredibly important to the future of this plant and the medicines. And one of the biggest part of those experiences is our libraries, our genetic libraries, because they haven't been adulterated by the indoor clone market. So they haven't changed, and I'm not saying the words right because I'm not a scientist, but they haven't like morphed into these other things, and one of that is the carrying of that virus, which is
Yeah,
really difficult.
it's a difficult one. And I've had genetics, I've been accused of giving it to people, and I've had to go and take multiple samples myself, pay out of my pocket to clear my name, and come back not, NorCal Ag maybe or something like that over in Reading was a good source. But it can that hops can really hide, man. It can be in one branch and not the other of the plant.
Well,
And when they did my samples, I had to give a sample of the top, middle, and bottom leaf, and I did it from 4 different plants, top, middle, and bottom. It was 12 samples total. I think it was $25 a sample.
so
And it
all
wasn't.
of that information, Brad, all of that information, you need to write a diary of that and keep that in Canopy Right, because that information adds value to your cultivars. Just like the reason we know these, like that there is a cultivar that exists that does that, is because that breeder utilized the pieces of science. He felt protected, and so he felt free enough to step out and utilize DNA testing, all these different tests to show, does he have a unique allele? Maybe we're learning, and through some of the research that like Johnny from Huckleberry Farms is doing in Canyon Country, that outdoor and our experience creates unique terpenes that are extinct. But
Sure.
science has, when I was a kid, science was kind of the enemy, because we're about nature and living one with nature in these communities. But what I'm seeing now through this new experience of legalization is that science is saying, Brad, you know what you're doing. And you're intuitively keeping the things that are magic because of that knowledge.
Yeah, but I'm having to work with scientists real closely, and I got to learn all their terminologies because, yeah, I got a lot of 20 plus years of in the field experience, but it was more of that bro science shit. And the first time I started hearing the talks, science versus bro science, I started realizing how smart I wasn't real fucking quick. And I could admit that. Like, I might know some tricks of the trade that were taught down through, just friends and family and the old guys and all that. But there's some reasons why I believe shit happens, and I don't even know why. Just because I saw it happen, and I'm like, if you do this, it does that. But there's a reason why it does it. And so I'm trying to get a little more advanced and learn that. And then when you get into breeding, oh man, it's a whole, just because I learned how to make seed doesn't mean I was a good breeder. So I had to learn, the makeup of genetics and what, how not to destroy certain genetics by trying to mutate them into shit. But preservation of genetics in seed form is a lot easier for me than clone all day.
So what are you working on next?
Shit, R&D. I'll be doing R&D for the next 3 years just to prove what seeds I made or what.
But where's your vibe at right now? Like, are you Daniel was just saying he's feeling, what was he saying? The perps and gas, I think is what he was saying.
Man, yeah, that's trendy flower bag appeal, and I kind of like that stuff from my head too. I'm a heady guy and I got to have some stony shit, but I think that a lot of focus is going to be on for the hash guys. I think that these guys, when I watched them work some of our genetics this year and I did the math, I was like, I'll keep doing that. That worked out. If you can find some 4, 5, 6 percenters, I'll break it down and I'll just use some rough figures. But say you're an outdoor pound of pot that maybe right now in California and locally in Humboldt, you might get $500, and it could be a couple hundred up or down, maybe $500. Well, all of a sudden, if you turn it into hash and you hit maybe at least 4%, 5%, and you sell it for, say, a wholesale price, you're probably going to get about a $2,000 pound out of the deal. And you don't got to pay for trimming. You got to hold it in freezers. It's a different process. But when everybody's scrambling to try to find, like, how can we cultivate and still turn it into being able to pay our bills, I see more people pay their bills off solventless hash making than flower this year. And I think it's going to continue in the next year if prices don't, within a month or two, just go shoot down 80% in hash. But it's a really clean, solid product. And we got some guys locally that I'm sure they'd love to shout out, but I don't want to put them on blast. But they're doing really, really good work. And a lot of the farmers are willing to they're not going to smoke it anyway. It's going to a consumer. So they really don't care if it's a hash consumer or flower consumer. If at the end of the day, they can keep paying for their farm permit and keep the farm going. And we're all a bunch of flower smokers, but hash is a commodity these days that's still bringing $1. Shout out Happy Dreams. He's big
Hey,
inspiration.
Mr. D.
Big inspiration as well. What he's doing over there, and yeah, every price is going to drop within cannabis, but you have to try to hold on to the ones that are still. I think hash and genetics providing is where I'm going to stay in my lane.
I'm seeing a lot of farmers that were traditionally flower farmers that are transitioning to the hash market, pull through and feel like they're getting higher dollars than the rest of the market.
It happens.
I'm also seeing, in fact, we have a client in Canopy Right who is seeing, I'll say, about 2 times the amount, and he just told me this today, for his flower, even in the flower market. And he's saying it's because of the information he has behind the plant and the way he's been able to promote the plant from all the information that we've helped him gather. So like you mentioned, terpene profiles, right? Like right now there's a whole bunch of people running around wanting above 4% terpene profiles. Well, not a lot of people even are looking at that or knowing that, but that all of a sudden gives you your own individual market right there. You've diversified a little bit only by understanding that aspect of your plant.
Well, in the traditional market where a lot of us come from, we just call it, that's loud. That one's got a heavy, that's super heavy smell. But now they break down to that's a 4%, 5%, 6% terpene and it's more official and it's technical, and that's the terminologies I'm talking about, going from this bro science hillboy shit that I just was used to, and that's how me and the guys always done it. We didn't need to do it no other way because we were our own trendsetters. We didn't look to the Bay Area on what was hot up here. We created what was hot and sent it down there. It was the other way around. And now it's the other way around. We're asking them, all right, what do you want? What do you want us to? We can make anything. One of the reasons that a lot of the guys around here hold on to some valuable genetics, because look at how many genetics go through our hands, and that we have the option to go over and see our neighbors grow. We get to size so much shit up that a lot of people never get to see. They just hear and read about it. I've seen most 80% of strains on the market in multiple gardens, and I know which ones I like, which ones I grab, and which ones I use. And now it's just a matter of R&D on to let's prove it. Let's prove what that pecan pie and that blueberry Akim will do. I've smoked them both, and they're both enjoyable.
And let's not lose it.
And yeah, let's prove what treats nausea and back pain and arthritis.
So I need more people
PTSD.
willing. I will offer genetics for free to almost anybody who will grow them and let me watch them grow them. Maybe not physically, like in their back, standing behind them, but let me follow along in the process and then do some testing on it, and let's find out. I have a library that goes hundreds and hundreds of genetics deep, and almost anything except for a few dozen family heirloom genetics I'll offer for free if somebody's willing to grow it, test it, and just give me the feedback so I can use that for further, production. But R&D as a breeder is so much, we can't even afford to do it all ourselves.
See, I love that you said that, because one of the things that we get pushback on with Canopy Right around is that we're trying to monopolize the plant. And we're trying to put the power into the creator's hands. Right. So you have the ability to do those things without fear of it being adulterated or ended up being patented by some big company.
It's not like I brought any of those genetics over there to say, I don't want anybody having these.
Right.
I actually encourage people. That's why I make regular seeds. I encourage the breeding process. If I don't want somebody to have something, I won't offer it, or But I don't know how to explain it. I'm way more encouraging the people to grab it and do it than try to protect it by that. That would only be if somebody pulled some ridiculous cocksucker move, and I just had to be like, oh no, dude, you're not gonna, whatever you're trying to do, whatever, I shouldn't even say any name, but some bullshit move by some con artist tried to pull some shit. I'd be like, hey, copyright, what can we do here? But other than that, I'm not trying to keep it out of anybody's hands because of that. just in case something shady happens. Really, is the way I was looking at it.
Yeah, that's
Yeah. That's my
Yeah,
only
I
goal
wouldn't be like, yeah, my shit's
is
copyrighted.
to
You can't breed
help
with that,
people.
even though I sold you this. If you ever purchase or buy any of my seeds, or even they're given, if they go from me to you, that's basically the rights to do whatever you want. I've watched many people, Capulator with Mac One, and how it leaked out. He threw such a fit, and still is years later, over what he wanted to have on genetics, put it in the world, and then it got. I don't want to drive myself crazy doing that. I spread shit out so I can get the feedback and let me know should I make more of that or not. Because I can only grow out so much of my own shit
I like
without these crazy. Just you're muted up there.
I am.
There you go.
Now you're back.
Hello? Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
we can hear you now.
I love your back. I think that there's a way to build in feedback for testimonials and stuff, like being able to not only get the data back from the cultivators, but also eventually tap into end users, whatever they felt down the line.
We keep losing you, Kelsey.
Yeah, I can hear every third word.
I think what she was saying was really, really important, though, that what she was saying, as you know, Kelsey, when you go into Canopy, right, for those of you that are in the beta system, and if anybody wants to be in the beta system, DM us through Canopy, right, and you'll get, and we'll get back to you. But can you talk again, Kelsey?
Yeah, I can try.
There
So
you are. Say it again. It was what you were saying was valuable.
Yeah, I think we can build in feedback. So not only feedback from the growers and cultivators, but also feedback from the end users of your strain, so that it all feeds back to value.
And that's so valuable
That's
to breeders, man, to be able to run through a library. That's why I like, if you tell me who they're going to and show proof to actually have a grow to grow them and not trying to swipe on some free shit and go sell them to somebody, dude, I would literally offer up thousands and thousands of seeds for any program that will legitly just let me watch the I don't even want none of the, I just want maybe some of the data and let me follow along. And, you know, I can do it silently, man. It's just so valuable as a breeder to have someone help do R&D. And I know eventually I'll be finding more and more people. Right now, it's just me and the homies and what we can do in the backyards and shit, because it's so hard for guys like me to get these genetics metric in the position I'm in. We've already missed
And there's
the
just
bus.
so much room for
we
end
missed the
consumer
bus.
stuff. Like,
Well, I'm saying,
the
like,
way that
I tried to get a lot of my genetics in metric at a time when I was working for a legal farm, and they said we had a window, and we made a list, and I think the list might have been too big, and we got denied. But hey, the list was big because we had the fucking library. Like, I didn't want to leave anything out because 10 years from now we might want to grow the shit.
Yeah, no, I've sent a couple dozen emails to the DCC about this.
Yeah, it was
they don't
part
like
of
me at
it was
this point.
part of the
because no one knew about that cutoff in May 2020.
It was something around there, and they gave us a deadline to submit a list of all our genetics that we were trying to get up in the seed. Maybe they let you have your own little library or something within metric, get seeds in metric, and we tried, and they literally denied us. And it wasn't that it was my permit. I was working in conjunction and collaboration with somebody that had the permit, that I thought, well, we could just do it through yours, and we're a team, so there it is. And I never figured out how to even attempt it since. Because I can't even put a seed in a fucking dispensary because they got to be in metric somehow, some way, and completely legal product. Might as well be marigold fucking seeds.
Well, for our community, we have a great ally in Jeff. Because of his experience in the legal field and what he does, he really sees the need and the value of our legacy genetics and our legacy operators. So please, folks who are listening, if you have any suggestions, ideas, Jeff, please speak to Jeff. Share with him those ideas, because
you know what? I don't mean to cut you off. You know what helps though is these fucking in conversations right here. When you start going live and you see each other face to face versus just commenting or liking stories and sending DMs, like it's not as personable. This is as close as you get as the old face to face meetings we used to have. Like I'm part of the Willow Creek Cannabis Alliance, and we used to go do that. But having more of these, hey, want to go live and get 2 or 3 people on here to discuss shit. That's how you're gonna make more progress. That's how I feel more connected, and I feel more I can engage you guys with a 10-minute conversation through words than I can through commenting on your posts all day.
We should do Jeff Ask Live.
Can we address the Cron's question about the seeds need to be a metric? So the state of California's position is that commercial cannabis activities can only take place between licensees, and the only genetics that can get into the system had to have been entered into metric before this mysterious cutoff date, which was May 2020. But there is so much gray area given the DEA has essentially said that seeds are hemp. Seeds don't have any THC. The definition of marijuana is greater than 0.3% THC by dry weight. So how do you even call seeds marijuana? So you have this weird situation where, So you have this weird situation where if you're a home grower and you want to send seeds to a licensed grower in New Jersey, is that illegal? I don't know. But if you want to use your seeds and sell them for commercial production in California, the state of California is saying, no, you can't do that. I don't think that position makes any sense. I don't think it's viable given that the state just passed this law saying we're going to allow California to export. So I don't know. It's my little pet project to like pester the DCC every few weeks to see if they've changed their position on this at all. I taught a program on it through the Bar Association. I'm on the Bar Association's Cannabis Committee a few months ago. But the Cron, it's a good question. Once I get an answer, if you send me a DM, then I'll reach out to you as soon as I figure out and make a little movement. So nationwide's okay, but not statewide. So what the state of California's position is that licensed growers can only conduct commercial cannabis activities with other licensed growers within the state of California. So that's a firm position with the state of California. Where it gets tricky is what about home growers? And that I don't know. I don't think there's an answer. I'm trying to figure it out. I think if you look at some of the larger seed companies, they're doing deals all over the world. How do you do that? Well, cannabis seeds are hemp, so
yeah, I think we should just leave it. I think we should just leave it at that.
And I think we should leave it at that. The one thing I would say is that there hasn't been any enforcement at all around this issue, and part of it I think is because the state's position is admittedly backwards. And not to say that you should break the law because you're not going to get caught. I'm just saying that the entire thing is a gray area with no enforcement.
Well, yeah.
And we don't condone non-compliant activities.
Thank you for that.
I will comply.
But yeah, pretty
I'll
gray.
be willing to step up and comply the minute it makes sense to me. You know what I mean? That's when I comply, is when it makes sense. If not, I got to form my own plan. And that's one thing in Humboldt we've been able to do, is we come up with our own plans on the spot all the time.
We got a new question.
There's another question.
I don't know the answer to the equity waiver fee question, but I will look it up.
So we're coming close to the top of the hour. We got like 5 more minutes left, but I wanted to let everybody know that we're going to be doing these lives at 4 o'clock every now and then with different creators that are in Canopy Right. And Brad here, Rare Breed Humboldt, is one of those creators. And we had Daniel Hendricks from Hendrx Farm, who's another one of those creators, and have these kind of conversations with Jeff, Kelsey, and myself on here. And then we're gonna, I think, come up with some other great live ideas as well. As you can see, Jeff is an amazing resource to have as an ally for our community, and I'm always grateful to be able to have conversations with him to help navigate. And I know he's open
Hey,
to that,
so
to
you,
support our tribe.
As are the
Yes,
three of you.
absolutely,
So,
absolutely. We just don't, we all have different skills, you know.
and you know,
So,
you know what makes sense on here too? You see Humboldt 36 Farms?
yeah.
Guys like that, ask him, he's a producer. Not only what the community is asking for, or what the demographic is asking for, but what do the farmers want to grow? What are they seeing that wins for them?
Oh, well, you see, Brad,
yeah,
I happen to
yeah,
have a theory. It doesn't mean I'm right or anything, but from the amount of time that I get to spend on farms and with the plant, and I've been around the plant since I was born, I believe that what I, and it's not even what I believe, it's what I'll just tell a story. There's a plant that I got to meet in the springtime, and the farmer loved this plant. He was so excited about this plant. We even took videos with the plant. This was his favorite plant, and he's got big plans for this plant. Well, then he took that plant through DNA testing and did some other series of tests with it. Well, it turns out, and I can't go into details, but I like to call it the $1 billion plant. And he had no idea that this plant had all this true medicinal, true, like, measurable value to it. He just knew it was the plant that he liked the most in his garden. And I truly, that's what I tell breeders when I go talk to them is, do what you love, because that's part of what your magic is that you're able to see what should come together. You know, you and I had that conversation that
Yep.
you see that magic because you know that plant so well.
Yeah, you know, mine goes a little deeper, you know, some family heirloom shit. That blueberry Chem 91 I run around with, some that was passed down through the generations through Densmore you know, breeders, and it's worked its way into my hands because I was a part of the circle that was doing our thing and helped keep this guy alive, and it was gifted to me, and I just put it on the library. So like, some of these genetics aren't just valuable as far as they might be medicinal and marketable and all that, but they're super sentimental to some of us, and without them we almost feel like now we got to start over and go to the Emerald Cup and try to find a new starting point. My starting point usually is in a dresser drawer somewhere.
I just feel like I have this memory as, I don't know, maybe high school, and I had food poisoning, and I just smoked something, and my nausea just went away. It didn't like gradually taper off, it ceased. And like that plant is, the seeds for that plant are sitting in someone's drawer somewhere.
Those are where
We
the
gotta
unicorns are at,
find
man.
them.
I promise you that it's going to add resilience. It's going to add structure. A lot of diseases that might have even came here, you know, 10 years ago or within the past 10 years, maybe they already existed. Maybe in the past 10 years we've been able to identify them. But I'm seeing a lot more structure benefits and resistant benefits come out of these old seeds that were popping than almost any of the new shit. The new shit just seems kind of strong doggish and lacking that girth and that the branches that hold themselves up without even being tied up. Resistance, where you can grow a plant full term in Eureka and the shit will finish. You know? Hey, I appreciate you guys and what you're doing and inviting me into a program that can help expand any part of my program that I do, because we're just all out here trying to figure our own lane, and I found mine, but some reason I found you guys that help people that are in that lane excel, because that's what it did. It made me, you know, I don't even know too much about all the details of what you guys are capable of, but what I've been told so far makes me feel like as I get time in my life and as I can have these conversations, I just want to keep communicating more with you guys and figuring this out. You guys got a lot of knowledge that I don't have. I promise you that.
You have a lot of knowledge that we don't have, but we're learning. And
yeah, we just share it. That's That's why we're here. Everybody's at a different level. I was a rookie holding on to belt loops, trying to learn the ropes and feeding programs and all that, and how to spray properly too. And you know, I got my little status, but there's something about forming the unity and becoming a unit with all our brain powers that when we need to get something accomplished, we can set the goal and probably get it done. I think you guys have probably done that many times with what I've learned about your the little history that I know. Sounds like because I'm just now coming out of the shadows a few years ago.
Jeff, would you put your IG in there so people can hit you up when they want to? But you know, Brad, well, just I couldn't put it on there. Just so people can find you. Thank you, Brad, for coming out of the shadows, and thank you for the work you do with Humboldt Skate Lab and the kids, and you know, all the great things that you've done, because you came out of the shadows in that way and really brought community together.
Yeah, that was fun. That was my chance to get crawl off the hill and go be a party society again, rather than live in a tent and try to do that shit. And got myself a house in town, bought a skate shop, and started doing community shit. And that got me embraced real quick. You know, I was the same guy, but once I started showing my face in the community other than cannabis, they're like, oh, this fucking little stoner kid does something besides grow and smoke pot. You know, and it allowed people to see me in another aspect other than just being a fucking stoner that's always talking about this new clone he's got.
Well, all of that is going to help more of our brothers and sisters in this journey feel valued in their experience, you know, whether they want to come out of the shadows or not. There, you know, the more of us that stand up and like you, I think the more people will be empowered through this instead of disempowered and oppressed the way the drug war has.
Man,
you know,
this communication that we're having is important, because I get to go home and be like, man, we had another talk that sounded promising. Because in the industry that ain't looking so promising, I need to look at you guys and know that you're still in it. So if I'm looking around, there's a lot of sad people out here right now, and I'm one of them. But I'm like, man, what else are we gonna do? You know, I'm not trying to give up and go back to digging ditches, man. If I'm gonna dig a ditch, it's to try to plant some garlic in or something. And you know, just thankful.
I think it's a whole
to still be here.
It's a whole new world, this legalization, and there's a lot of experience behind it, and I hope to see, as we move forward, that gap to come closer together, and more healing to be done.
Right. Do you know Dan at Happy Dreams?
I do know Dan, Mr. D. Good.
Yeah, we need to get
Dan.
Mr. D on here and have a discussion, because he's got a little broader. He's got a little broader perspective, insight, because the life he's already lived and accomplished, and he sees a bigger, broader picture of these things. When I've talked to him, I can tell he's light years ahead. He's a little ahead of his time of what he's capable of, but he is a community guy, and he is a down to earth. And you know, he invited me to his farm, and we chatted up quite a few times, but we never got a chance to really connect the way we probably should have.
Well,
but Dan's a cool guy. Dan's cool guy. He's got a lot of input to contribute.
Yeah. I'd like to come up to the farm.
Yeah. Right.
Mr. D,
come on, Mr. D, get us all out there. Canopy right tour.
We Americanize it. Eclectic Weeds, I just had someone use the word colonize it. And yeah, I hear you.
Shit.
But maybe we've got more vibrational power than that, and we can influence that. That's what I was taught, is that, you know, this is our time as those who understand nature's wisdom in this plant medicine and how to work with it. Those are some really complex structures, and they can integrate into all sorts of things, from building community to I'm not a breeder, but I think like a breeder because I'm a community builder. Brad's actually going to help me. I'm going to learn how to breed. But there's so much intelligence around this culture and around growing this plant that I think the world needs us more than ever. But not just this plant. It also needs our hearts and our the way we navigate the world, and for us not to get too tough and too angry about legalization, but get ready instead. And
Yeah,
that's kind of what.
and learn to think outside the box. Don't forget, there's an entire global industry out there that's waiting for fucking Humboldt County, Mendocino, these because anywhere outside of here, you damn near got celebrity status. So somebody that knows cannabis, knows where you're from, what you've been a part of. Like, oh shit, that you know, we got to start to think. We got to start to think global. Look at what's going on in South Africa.
Whenever anyone asks me what's the biggest market, my answer is always
look at what's
China.
going on in Thailand. Thailand's popping
China's
off right
our biggest
now. So
market.
South Africa.
Yeah.
Those dudes, they want genetics out there too. They've already been robbed for all theirs, so there's not much of a let's go get some land race. Let's go visit and trade. Fucking strain hunters already did that.
Jeff, I would love for you to share why you say China. Oh, just because there's so many people?
Biggest market. We just can't think small.
It's a matter of time.
We gotta think we're gonna win. It's just a matter of time. And it's like, if the four of us are never gonna quit, then,
Yeah. Well, and I think not the four of us, but all of this mindset, right? This culture, and I have a lot of folks who don't call themselves breeders, but they're farmers, and so I like the word wizards, because it's really, they are breeders because they do breed, but they breed by their love and the magic of the plant. But I find that all of these folks are we're all tuned in to that same plant wisdom, and we've got to share it, because I really don't see a lot else in the world that is diverse as our culture and as focused on actual earth and human wellness. It's kind of a new tribe.
And wait until, so one of the big things that, and I don't know, I didn't mention it before when you're talking about what I'm getting into, but I'm starting to work with some people that are real, they're trying to push the RSO thing, man. And RSO is so fucking slept on, but if we could start finding flower that can make good RSO, because that's the real healing problem. People have cancer, people have tumors, your fucking CBD ain't the antidote. I think different forms of RSO, different profiles, making a full profile plant extract is what's going to start being the new forefront of medical. Because without the entire profile of the plant, like even if you're using trimmed bud, it cuts down properties that lie within the stem and the water leaf and throughout the plant. Now, I don't think you should use the root ball, but there's everything from the stalk up that's probably valuable when it comes to that. And
I have formulators and alchemists who will totally agree with you, but disagree on the root ball. There's medicine in those roots.
There might be, but the RSO that we've always made, you just use stem. You can basically just chop it all up, and it's pretty easy to make. But I think medicinal value in RSO alone is probably the most beneficial product within cannabis that you can make.
I take it every night for my health.
It don't get talked about like it needs to be. So that's one of the things, along with hash and all that. I think on the medicinal side, other than on a stony heady boy side, on the medicinal side, I think RSO is going to be a big focus. Like when I want to go something medicinally, I'm going to be working with the RSO guys because I like the program. I like the program, and I'm learning what it's capable of.
Hey, Brad, do you know eclectic weeds?
No.
I'm curious. He says he's crossing land races. I wonder what land races he's crossing.
I know. Those
I think he might have set up here. All right, I
Guys, I
need to
gotta go
feed
get
my
on.
son too.
But it
So,
was a
so listen.
pleasure.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. This is the Canopy Right team, and we've got Rare Breed on here, who's also a part of Canopy Right. And you can go check us out at www.canopyright.info. I'm Lelehnia DuBois, and this is Kelsey Parker and Jeff Hamilton and Brad Hooper of Rare Breed. You can find us on, I'm using my friend's Instagram, but my Instagram's in the feed. And we're going to be back this Friday with my girlfriend, Chia Rodriguez. You can find her on Moms Do Weed. They have Arcana Flowers out of Mendocino. She's a superstar. She represented our culture like a queen in the movie Ladybugs. And she's going to be our guest on Friday. So come and get you rocking and rolling more. I've got
Yeah,
you
no.
everything
Send me a
rocked and
text.
loaded.
I'll get on it. I've been lacking.
All right. Blessings, everybody. Have a really safe night. It's awfully gnarly up here in Humboldt County, but we're kind of used to rocking and rolling around here, so
It's
it doesn't
doozy right
stop
now.
much. I did miss a farmer today because all their power went out, but oh well.
Okay.
Hey,
Great to see
you're
you,
a great
Kelsey. You look beautiful. Good to see you, Jeff.
You're a great host. Thanks for having me on here.
Thank you, everyone,
Yeah,
for
thanks,
joining in.